All right, another podcast from the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan. It's going to be an awesome podcast today. Me and the guest have been sitting here talking for about 10 minutes before we even start recording, so you know it's going to be a great one. Right before we get into it, I want to shout out VetLife. VetLife is a 501c3 nonprofit company. It's a company of veterans for veterans. Every veteran faces difficulty when they transition from active duty back to civilian life, and VetLife is there to ease that transition. If you want to reach out to VetLife, you can do so through Instagram or Facebook, or check out their website at vetlifetoday.org. So without further ado, Mike Foguth, you and I have had a little bit of crossings over the years. We actually podcasted briefly in 2020 together.
Yes.
But we've never really got to sit down and have a long conversation just as two men. So I want to start this podcast the way that I start all my episodes. Don't tell me about the man that you are today yet. Take me all the way back. Where was Mike born and raised? What were you like as a young kid? What did you think this life had in store from you? And then let's start to unveil your story.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me here. I go back to being born and raised in Michigan, grew up in a town called Fenton, and I am oldest of three kids. I have two younger sisters. My mom and dad both come from big families, all local in the Fenton area. My dad's one of 13, mom one of 7. And family was the hub of everything that we did. I lived close to relatives. We got together every single month. So family has been like the backbone of my existence. And so that's what really drove me to have this family type atmosphere. And that's, fast forward to today, I have 6 kids of my own, 5 girls and a boy. My wife and I, it's like family is of the utmost, like family is everything to us. And growing up in that small town, I enjoyed it, but I always knew that there was more out there. I was very ambitious in the sense of I was one of those before it was, this vision board stuff that was out there and, seeing your future and all these other things. I knew, and again, I just knew that there was something bigger out there for myself. Didn't know what it was. I just always had these ambitions to be able to go out and do big things. And so after graduation, I went to Central Michigan, met some amazing people up there. After I left Central Michigan, I went and worked directly with the Detroit Pistons during their championship runs. So I had an amazing experience there. I got to, walk in the parade downtown Detroit, hold the trophy, like all that amazing travel with the team. It was first class. But there was a ceiling there. It was sports and entertainment, right? And if you're on the sales and marketing side of that, if there's 50,000 seats in an arena, you can't produce or you can't sell 51,000. Right? I mean, so we were at sellout. So people could call, say, hey, I want to buy season tickets. And I'd say, I can't help you. They'd be like, I'll give you my credit card right now. I'd be like, I can't help you. I then transitioned into the financial services business. And that, from that point, it was my college roommate, who was a wrestler at Central Michigan, a wrestling coach here now in the area. And he catapulted me into these introductions. And we talked about this earlier, the people that you know. Fast forward, I just knew that I wasn't comfortable working for someone. I always thought like, hey, there was, the harder I work, the more successful things should become. And from there, my wife and I were married. We had one child, and we're getting ready to have another, and we moved to the Livingston County area, and that's when I started Foguth Financial Group. And from there, it's just been, a dream come true.
So I want to ask about a couple parts of your story. So where do you think that extreme vision and ambition came from? Do you think that was from the foundations that were built by your family? Were you clearly different from your siblings in some way? Did you feel unique in any certain way? Did you naturally excel at school? Like what gave you, because you had vision as a child.
Sure.
Yeah, if everybody had that type of drive, I know what it's like to have that fire in your chest. Where did that come from for you?
I think it came from, both sides of my family, both of my grandfathers essentially were entrepreneurs. They were business owners. And I didn't get a chance to meet my mother's father as much, but he had a family business where pretty much everybody in that side of the family worked there. And that I saw that there was the fruits of the labor of owning that business were things that I saw that he had nicer things than other people did. And so maybe it was materialistic at first. Maybe it was the time freedom, right? He was the same person who would put me on and off the bus every day. I was like, well, how come my grandfather was always there? But I never had a chance to actually, he passed early, and I never had a chance to dig into that with him. But I think that's that subconscious starting to get planted into you of saying, hey, that there's, this person that you were looking up to did these things. And so it just was one of those things that I think that it was more of a subconscious. Again, we talked about this earlier, surrounding yourself, right? That's, and I wasn't necessarily my family, my mother and father were not on that winning side of the family business. My mother was not a partner in the business. She was the secretary for the business. She had to work for her brothers. And my father just never, he didn't go into that. He was an engineer. My dad's dad was an engineer. Didn't go into that side of the business. So neither one of them worked for the business, but it was there as present. So I think that if I were to break it down, and I've shared this before, not being a part of that kind of lit that, that fire under me and saying, hey, I know I don't have this now, but I can see that it's extremely obtainable.
So where did the confidence come from, too? Because were you in athletics? Or what made you feel good enough about you that said, hey, I'm the one to do this?
Two things. Yes, I was in athletics. I did football, wrestling, and baseball. Just high school, collegiate. I sniffed a little bit of wrestling, and I said, there's no chance. I remember on the club team for Central Michigan, because at that time, Central Michigan had an amazing wrestling team, top 5 in the country. And I remember going to a club practice, and I was like, I enjoy this, but there's no chance I'm actually going to dedicate myself to doing this. I just didn't want it. So, yeah, I had that drive, enjoyed working out. I mean, we would, again, when you're in college, you have a bunch of time. We were working out 2 times a day, just enjoying life, and, you get that competitive nature. But what it boils back down to is if you prepare yourself, your confidence comes from preparation. And that's in anything and everything in life. So I think the best way to understand that is by not being prepared for something. There's chaos. There's uncomfortable. You're fearful, right? People are afraid of public speaking. You're not going to be fearful if you've practiced it 100 times. For one speech, if you practice it 100 times, standing up out loud, I don't care if you've never done it before, you would be confident because you already know what you're going to do before you do it.
So then you got right in with the Detroit Pistons. Talk to me about that transition, because that's kind of a dream opportunity right off the bat. You went to college for what, marketing and business?
I went for actually, it's funny, the very first semester I went into school, I went into entrepreneurship. And after a semester, I was like, well, time out, didn't make logical sense. Why do I need a degree in entrepreneurship if you're going to start a business? Like, who's going to check your credentials? So I went into general business studies, and I ended up getting a minor in commercial recreation, which was the business side of, I don't want to say of athletics, but basically of the sports and entertainment business. Some kids went into work, for the county rec department on the business side. I did 2 internships with the Detroit Pistons, and which was funny about that, it's an unpaid internship because it's high demand. One time I did it for human resources. I had no desire, but it's where I had the opportunity. So I just took the opportunity, went in there, and you just get to know everybody. Like, I'm interviewing, I don't want to say interviewing, I'm having conversations. At the time, it was Tom Wilson was the CEO. He's on the 6th floor. I'm 21, 22 years old, sitting up there having lunch with him, probably 2 or 3 times a summer. Just surrounding, hey, what is it here? I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to be surrounded by, and what we talked about, I want to be surrounded by other winners. People that are at a level where I want to be. I don't know what to say or what to ask. I just want to be there and listen to what they have to say.
You just dropped such good insight there. I work with a lot of kids. I try to mentor a lot of kids in the high school or kids that I work with here. And a lot of the times they get this mindset of like, well, what am I getting out of this right now? And they miss out on things that exist that you're referring to. Networking around high-value individuals and people that have really built lives that are substantial, you get so much more than, what is tangible in the moment. You might be thinking, man, this is an unpaid internship. I could go work at, this job or that job. I
go do construction and probably make $25 an hour and just bankroll all summer.
100%.
And I did, trust me, I did do that, right? There was times that, in my life that I did do that. I do Reaching Higher also. I know you do Reaching Higher. So I've mentored at Reaching Higher when you talk about that, and talk about taking things for granted, right? I go back to my childhood. I took those things for granted. I had a loving mother and a loving father. My father coached me. He's my best friend. He coached me in everything that I've ever done, right? That to me is normal. So to kind of elaborate on your point, if you are around those people, you don't need to know what you're doing. Just be around them. You don't need to know what you're asking. Why am I here? The thing is, and this is with, I love personal development. I'm just a personal development junkie. I belong to all these mentorships and groups, and I invest probably 6 figures a year into my personal development. The thing that I've learned from all of them is they're going to do what they're going to do. It might not be the right time in your life for that message, but it gets stored in the memory bank. And then there's going to be a point in your life, and you talk about this preparation, that's when it's like, oh yeah, I remember. And it's a subconscious thing. It's not like it's conscious, like you're going to go back and you're going to write down, like, oh, I need to write a thank you letter to Ed Milet because he told me about that. No. It just, you're surrounded by that. I'm a big believer in reading books on that subject. It'll hit you when God wants it to be in the right time in your life for that to come back to it. They were talking about this at church last night, is to be a strong Christian, you have to be constantly climbing the hill to Christianity. And if you stop, there's no like parking brake that stops on the side of the hill, right? If you're climbing a hill and you stop climbing, right, you're going to go backwards. It gets back to personal growth. You talk about your fighters out there. There's no chance that the greatest fighter you could have in that gym, let's give him 3 months off and have him come back and see how he does. Probably not going to be the best fighter anymore, is he?
100%. You're also talking about something that I really bring up constantly with people, where you need to sacrifice in the present for what you want in the long term. Like walking up the hill might be tiring. What if you're tired? Your legs are exhausted. You don't feel like walking today. You don't want to carry that burden. Right now, there's a lot of cultural talk about like your current senses being what you should listen to. Like, if you don't feel like going to work today, take the day off. If you don't feel like handling this responsibility that you have, put it off for now. If you don't like the feeling that this environment gives you, get away from it. And that really misleads a lot of people, because if it's a burden that's worth carrying or it's something that's worth doing, sacrificing in the momentary, like sacrificing your feelings right now for something that moves you in the direction of the man that you're trying to become or the future that you're trying to create, is an essential part of that. As you were telling that part of your story, I was going back to, that's the lesson that I try to share with all these young kids. What feels good right now probably isn't what's going to lead you to success. It's going to be grinding through the things that you don't want to do and taking on more responsibility than you probably want to bear, that's going to move you to being the man that you want to be or woman you want to be. And that's where fulfillment comes from. Fulfillment comes from where you've set out on a course and you're making progress on that course, and you're knowing that, like, I'm doing it. Right. I'm leveling up. I'm acquiring skills. Look at where I'm at now. Like, this view is more beautiful than the view I started with.
Because you're climbing.
Because you're climbing. But again, you have to make sure that you set a goal or a destination that you're trying to achieve. Otherwise, where's the motivation to climb? Like, that's where a lot of people are lost. They haven't laid out, what do they want their life to look like?
Right.
What do they want themselves to look like in the future? Personal development, you need to have a map. You need to know, like, where am I trying to go with this thing? So I love that analogy that you just gave.
There's, as you're talking, there literally is 4 things that pop into my mind. And because I have all those things, I start to think. So first, saying is, number 1, if it was easy, everyone would do it. So I remind myself that a lot when things are tough, when it's like, I don't want to be here right now. If it was easy, everyone would do it. I tell myself, number 1. Number 2 is when you're thinking of this opportunity of hard, because that's what you're talking about. Things are hard. I have a saying to myself, and again, not that I invented this, but you have to choose your hard. It's hard to be broke. I've been broke. My wife and I have been broke. Like, we lived in a 1,300 square foot house. We're wondering how we're going to pay for, a $1,300 mortgage. Just wonder. That was hard. You're like, all right, I think we have like a 14-day grace period. Okay, right? That's hard. Putting in the work and grinding and doing the things, those are also hard. So I always tell myself, you can choose your hard. Eating good is hard. Eating bad is hard. Saving money. Spending money, right? It's so, I say number 2 is this, choose your hard, right? So if it was easy, everyone would do it. Number 2, choose your hard. And these all come from, again, these are the points in my life when I surround myself with these things because they're constant reminders. The third thing is every day means every day. What does that mean? Have you ever heard the saying, runners run? If you talk to somebody who runs every day, they don't get up and look at their weather app. They put on their shoes, they lace them, and they go outside and they run. It's snowing, it's raining, they're running. Right? How many times have you seen somebody running down the road here in Michigan, pouring down rain, like, oh, maybe I should stop and see if they need help? Nope, they're just running. Because runners run.
And at that point, it's permeated into who they are.
Yeah.
It's their habit. It's their lifestyle. It's their choices. It's like Kobe Bryant talks about that a lot, where he's like, I already made the agreement. I don't get to have the conversation with myself each day to say, do I want to go and shoot for the next 2 hours?
Right.
It's already been decided. Runners run.
That's my fourth point. You have to be willing to put in the work when nobody can see it. See, today's people with social media, right? I mean, it's not as bad now. I mean, you can remember like 5, maybe 8 years ago, if somebody went to the gym, they had to tell you about going to the gym. There was a post, I'm at the gym today. It's like, all right, we get it. You're at the gym, right? But you have to do the work when no one is looking. This is the Kobe Bryant, right? How many shots do you think that guy took, right? If you've watched that documentary on the Redeem team, they're in Vegas. Have you seen this? You got to watch it. It's a documentary. I think it's a Netflix. But regardless, they bring Kobe in on the USA team, the Redeem team, and they're trying to go back because they're getting their butts kicked. They put professional basketball players in the Olympics. And they weren't doing as well, blah, blah, blah. They bring in Kobe. They're in Vegas training. Guys are coming back from the club. They said around 4:30 or 5 in the morning. They're coming back to go to bed. Didn't have practice, they said, till noon. They passed Kobe in the lobby in his workout clothes. He was going to work out while they were coming in. They crossed paths. They said we chopped it up for a little bit, this, that, and the other. The next day, 2 or 3 guys come and join him in the gym at 4:30. They said by the end of the week, every player was in the gym at 4:30 in the morning.
That's incredible. That's back to the effect of the people you surround yourself with. Now, Kobe Bryant is like the epitome of a winner. Like, for as much as runners run, winners win, and that man was the personification of winning in that way. And if you live your life like that, you can unlock the potential for countless people around you as well, which is what that story reflects. Yeah. So all of a sudden, our community levels up if you decide that you're going to take it seriously, that you need to be a winner. You need to put the work in. You need to set your life right. You need to set your family right. You need to aim at things that are worthy. All of a sudden, everybody around you is affected by that. Some people might shun it. Some people, if you start winning too much,
part.
100%. And I always bring that up because people want acceptance and love and validation from others. You might not get it right away. You might not even get it ever from some people. Some people need to turn away from what you're doing because imagine if they look at you and they parallel that to their life and say, he's out here in the gym at 4:30 in the morning, training, grinding, doing this, setting goals, crushing it, blowing up in his career, and I'm out at the club drinking, making all these terrible decisions. Instead of saying, I need to be held accountable for higher standards, it's, I just am going to get away from that person.
Well, misery loves company.
100%. Hurt people, and misery loves company. You just have to do what you believe to be right in your heart. And that type of energy is infectious to the right people. So you might not get the validation from everybody, but it will affect the right people. That story it exemplifies that. They were at the club and they could have said, Kobe's whatever. He's
crazy.
He's crazy. He's just wired different. Instead, one person joined him.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's a snowball effect. And now another. And I bet you the team did get their redemption. I haven't even seen it. I'm sure.
They won the gold. They did.
You see what I'm saying? That's how life works. So what were the moments, Mike, in your story where because personal development is a journey and it's a process. And the men that we are every year tend to change. Like you get to higher levels, and sometimes you take setbacks. But when was it that you decided, I need to dial in on this personal development? I need to really invest in myself regularly. Did that start as a child, or was it somewhere, because you said at one point, you're like, hey, I'm broke. I'm living in a 1,300 square foot house. Me and my wife are struggling. To turn to personal development at times like that is extremely hard because nothing around you really shows that you deserve success or that you're worthy of high-level success. But you made some of the right decisions in your life that make you the man that you are here today. Do you remember some of those profound points or when personal development really took root with you, not just saying it, but it became a part of your lifestyle?
When you start winning, your circle starts to change, and then you look around and the levels of where I want to go and where I'm going aren't necessarily always going to be in your backyard. right? You can have people that are in your sphere, your family, that are doing well, but again, it's like a glass ceiling, right? If everybody you know is at this level, but you foresee yourself being at this level, it's going to be hard. It's harder. It's not impossible. You can do it. But it becomes easier when you start to surround yourself with other like-minded individuals. Then all of a sudden you're like, okay, maybe I'm not crazy. There are other people out there that think like I think. And you start to get around them. And rather than people questioning what you're doing, it's not even that they're supporting what you're doing, but they're trying to do the same things. So now your 5 people you're hanging around are the 5 people that you either that you're wanting to become or that you are, and you start to, everybody around you starts to level. So that personal development came when I looked around and I said, I love the people around me, but these aren't the people that I foresee that I am going to be up again, in Livingston County, phenomenal county. Great. There's tons of winners, right? But there's a lot more to life than Livingston County.
Were there any big moments? Like, take me back to, okay, the part of your story. How old are you when you said you're broke, you're trying to put your life in order, you have big dreams, you know that you have those goals, and you said multiple times now, you've referenced, I know I'm meant to be at this level. So you have a pull, whether that's from God or the universe or whatever you want to cite that to, or even maybe it's just part of your spirit. It says, hey, there's more for you out there and you need to chase it. You're at that point of your time. Were there any big breaks? Were there steps that you took that made profound change on you as a person? Was there life events that happened? Like, what was it that really led to the growth, or was it just a slow grind? I mean, there was no big moments that you felt like you had a breakthrough?
They were all negative moments. They were losses.
Those are big moments, Mike. Sometimes
and that's what they are. And that's, to me, it's everything in life, right? Is the losses are what you look in the mirror and you say, man, I lost. I'm not where I wanted to be, or things didn't happen like I thought, right? Again, it wasn't easy. Things were hard. And I said, man, this hard is not fun. So if you don't change, again, if you don't change what you're doing, you cannot accept or expect there to be a different outcome. If I keep doing the exact same things that I'm doing, there's no chance a year from now things are going to be any different.
Are you willing to discuss any of those big moments that hit you hard and then how it changed you as a man?
The birth of my children, right? When you become a father and you are now responsible for other humans. Yes, when you get married, you're responsible. She's working, I'm working. We're both kind of, we're both mature adults. It's when I had our first daughter, and again, at the time, like my wife and I were beyond proud of the home that we had. We bought a home on our own, right? And we were proud. But then all of a sudden you start looking around and saying, is this where I'm going to foresee raising my children? And then, then we started to have, she was pregnant with our second. We said, okay, we need a bigger home. We only had 2 bedrooms. We technically had a third, but the point of that is, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, is this where I want my life to be?
What job were you working at this point?
I was a wholesaler. I was in the financial services business. So I was essentially selling product to other financial advisors across the entire country. And that was an opportunity with endless opportunities. I could do anything and every, right? That right there, I give a lot of credit to my wife. She was working full time and going to school at University of Michigan, in Ann Arbor. So she's working at the university as a nurse at night, or whatever they're called, a nurse tech or something, because she didn't have her degree yet. And then she'd go to school during the day. And so she's probably putting in a minimum of 12-hour days. So again, that's who I was surrounded by at the time. So there's nowhere do I dare go into work from 9 to 5 and put it in, my 8 hours while she's grinding out there. So again, it's by chance that all of a sudden now I'm working. When she leaves, I leave. And then when she gets home at 10, well, why am I going to get home at 5? What am I going to do? So I would stay and work an extra 5 hours. That became my habit. I didn't know any better. I just outworked everybody. And I think that's a consistent message. If you don't necessarily have the ability, the smarts, the athletic abilities, you can just outwork people. Right? And there's a lot of things out there you can look at, but You know, they say it takes 10,000 hours to become a professional in anything, right? You want to be a professional gamer? Put in your 10,000 hours. You want to be a professional whatever, weightlifter, what you have to put in 10,000 hours. You want to be a financial advisor. I tell my advisors all the time, you want to be a professional here, you have to put in 10,000 hours. You can't speed up time or slow it up, but you can get there faster if you put in 70-hour weeks compared to a 40-hour week. You're going to get there almost twice as fast as somebody who's doing it, 40 hours.
100%. People don't understand the compounding effect of that. Like, I get that 100%. The people that do, some people do 3 a days here.
Yeah.
2 a days, 3 days. And other people train twice a week. And they're like, I don't know why I'm not progressing at the same rate. It's like, just do the math. Don't take out all the natural ability. Just do the math. Yes. If Mike put in 5 extra hours a day, every day for 365 days in a year, he's done 1,800 hours more than you, 18,000 hours more than you at his craft. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's such a compounding effect that if you just look at what you're capable of right now and go a little more, the person that comes out at the end of that is dramatically further ahead. And you've experienced the results of that. And most people want to shut work off the moment that they're like done. That mindset kills you and it cripples you, because that moment, the free time is where your growth has to happen. Your growth is going to have to happen in those extra hours. If you're running yourself to death for someone else or for a company or whatever it is, and then not saying, but how do I get to the next level? You'll never achieve it. You're not going to get there. The guy that's out there putting in 5 extra hours of work because his wife's out there grinding, right, he's going to get further than you. It's not that he has something you don't. I love that you just said that. You weren't just blessed with some divine trait that, thank God I got that in the dice roll. No, you put the work in. Where did you meet your wife? Because having a rock like that in your life is fundamental to success.
Absolutely. High school sweethearts. We've been together since we were 16.
That's incredible.
Right? And she's actually calling me right now. So,
what perfect timing.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I heard my phone buzzing. But yeah, she is like the yin to my yang. I'm chaotic. I'm go go go. I'm you asked me about what kind of student I was. I wasn't an A student. I was this type of student that says, okay, it's funny. I kind of there's rules. I want to understand the rule. Why is it the rule, and can I push that rule to be better? She is the one. Again, I remember when I started my business, it's like, well, yeah, I can be there, and she gets it now, which is funny. But when we started, she's like, wait, so you don't have to be in the office at noon tomorrow? I was like, no, why? Because she had the 9 to 5 mentality. She had that mentality of, hey, I get paid if I'm in the hospital and I'm working. I check in, I check out, and that was the mentality. And so she didn't get that, but she's the one she's very structured and very organized and understands things, plans things, and I'm just go, right? And it's kind of like that. A type A personality, it's like if you're going to learn how to fly an airplane, well, I'll do it in the air. She's still on the ground making sure that everything is done and done and done. And there's nothing wrong with either one. We really are able to work well together. Don't get me wrong, there's conflict in life because there's 2 different personalities and they hit. But again, if we're working towards the same goal, we're going to get there 2 different ways, but we get there together.
I experience the exact same thing with my fiance, and it's very true that even though it creates conflict, it creates growth, because they bring a perspective to the table that I wouldn't normally consider. Like, I don't think like that. I think very similar to you. Like, if you show me a system, if I worked for you, and this probably makes me a horrible employee, if you show me a system and you have 12 steps to get to an end result, if I can understand the system really well, why it works, why it's important, why each step is vital, but I find a more efficient way to produce the same result or better, I will do it that way. The same result or better. I don't want to downgrade my quality because I'm conscientious. I care about the work that, if my name is attached to something, it means a lot to me. So I won't skip things to avoid. It's not laziness, but it's like, I am not just a rule follower. I can't do it. When I worked at the dealership, if they showed me a way to do something, if I could produce a result that was better and do a report a different way or whatever it was, I have to. My brain only works in that method. Yes. But I think that's a little bit of the entrepreneurial spirit.
It is, except for the problem is today's generations think that way a lot, very similar, but they're not willing to put the work in to get the result. And see, the problem is, and again, you talk differently to this, but if the result is the same or better, great. But the problem is kids today think that they can shortcut the system but they're not concerned with the outcome. If the outcome's not the same or better, you got to shut your mouth and do it the way that it's supposed to be done, because we know what the outcome is. So in our business, it has to be three things: duplicatable, repeatable, and predictable. You can't scale and you can't grow if it's not duplicatable, repeatable, or predictable.
I love that. I love that. So maybe the missing piece is the conscientious part. Like, you have to care about the quality of your work. And even if you're not the owner, like, that's another thing. You have to give your best before it directly benefits you. I tell so many of my people that, like, stop thinking you deserve some handouts, or just because you're doing more than the people around you, that entitles you to anything extra. It's who you are. You have to make it a part of your character that when you do something, you do it to the best of your abilities. If you do that enough time for a long enough period, consistent enough in one direction, you are going to find success. I don't think I've ever met someone that really gave 100% over and over and over and over, and learned from their losses and failed and made mistakes, but kept going at something that doesn't find a way to be successful.
It's consistency. So every Thursday in our office, I have an all staff meeting. We have offices all over the state now. So every Thursday I have this meeting, and my word this morning to them was consistency. Exactly what you just said. That's great that, again, can you show up to work out here 3 days a week for the next week? We all could. No problem. 15 times done. Right? I could bring my kid in to do that. What about a month from now? What about 3 months from now? Are you still showing up 3 times a day? See, the problem is most people can again, it's like beating a dead record here, but it's like the gym, January 1st. I mean, it's like a joke. Now people don't even make fun of it anymore because it's become such a bad joke. It's just consistency in anything. If you want something in life, like the hack, if you want a hack, just put consistency to it. You want to become a better cook? Cook 3 meals a day at home for somebody. A year from now, I promise I come into your kitchen, you're going to have an amazing meal.
100%. There's something I taught, you just sparked my mind for this. There's something I tell a lot of my fighters. I said, you are not focused. Don't focus on your results. Focus on growth mindset. Come in every day with just the mindset that it doesn't really matter the results that I produce today. They're almost not relevant. The results that I produce today will not matter once I make it and I'm successful. The question is, am I giving 100% and am I showing up and am I being consistent? Because if you do that, the results will take care of themselves. Whether Kobe Bryant missed 5 shots on Tuesday of 1994 has no factor on whether he's going to win the championship in 2005. It's, did he show up and put the shots in? Because what you tend to see is sometimes when people stop producing the results they want, or they're not seeing the progress. When you start a new skill, you're a beginner. You start to cook. There's so much to learn. You blah, 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 blah. You experience tremendous growth, and you probably have a lot of motivation to do it. But what about when it's monotony? It's the same thing. You're going to just
I've already made this dish, right?
I've already done this. Why do I have to do it again? You've made the dish once. Let's use the 10,000 rule. If you want the most perfect example of that dish.
Well, you can relate to this in MMA or in wrestling, right? The saying is, practice the shot, right? Talk about double leg, single leg. Practice the shot until you can't get it wrong. Don't practice the shot till you get like, oh, I got it right, coach. My head's on the outside. I'm good. I'm done. What's the next move? Whoa, timeout. Do that 20 times in a row. So I tell that to people. Don't get excited because you did it once. Keep going until you can't get it wrong.
Bruce Lee had a famous quote that said, I don't fear the man that has done 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man that's done one kick 10,000 times.
That's exactly it.
It's so true. If you want to become an expert at anything, you have to endlessly rep it. The way I grade people on their systems out in the school is, it's not just your technique. You might be able to walk me through a technique and explain how it should work and give me a textbook explanation and talk to a class. This is how you set up an armbar. What about the application? What about when it's time to throw an armbar? Do you understand when, how, why you throw that armbar? Do you have the muscle memory down that it's just automatic, that you don't need to think, oh, here's the pattern, now I got to go? You have to rep till that point. So mastery doesn't come from the first time you do something right. It comes from doing it until the point where you don't get it wrong, or you get it wrong the least amount of times possible.
Exactly right.
So let's talk about that upward trajectory. You see your wife grinding, you're putting the work in. You're working for another company, though, and somewhere in your story, you decided to Foguth Financial. When does that idea first come to fruition? Do you tell your wife right away? Do you start building behind the scenes? And kind of walk me through the entrepreneurial process.
It goes back to what we just talked about. I'm flying the plane in the air. There was no pre-plan. There was no, I'm going to do this, and then we're going to go do this. Started working on my basement, knocking on doors, sending out stuff, and just grinding. I didn't know anything other than to outwork. I knew I already had put in the $10,000 of the knowledge of the financial services. I got it, right? Can I get better? 1,000%. Am I getting better every day now? Absolutely. But what the difference was is I knew what it took to be successful because, again, part of my job was talking to other successful advisors. And you'd find similarities in what they're doing. And you'd say, okay, I want that trade, I want that, I want to do that, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So I had the opportunity to work with some of the greatest minds in the industry and to be around them. And I said, I just need to do that. And then from there, I chose my hard. I said, it was hard, right? Putting in, 12, 14-hour days and seeing the paycheck like this versus saying, okay, I'm going to get no paycheck and just go.
So you started this out of your basement.
Yeah.
SFS was started out of a basement.
Yeah.
You started Foguth Financial out of the basement. When did it get to the point where you and your wife started to go, this might be it? Like, I might be able to really start my own firm and, I don't know if it's called a firm.
Sure, yeah. You have to understand, there was no going back, right? That's just the mindset I had. Like, this was going to work. Yes or no? The answer is yes.
It's bizarre to sit and talk to you. So that you're my 162nd episode, and the reason I say it's bizarre to talk to you is most people do not think like I think. Like when you say those words, like there was no going back. I only see one. I am wired that exact way, but over the course of all these dialogues, I very rarely find other people that think that same way. So I'm usually trying to dig into their mindset to understand what I don't understand. What you're saying makes perfect sense to me. I don't know. I call it delusional confidence.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it to people. I have delusional self-belief that if I set out on a course and I do the right work and I put my hours in and I network with the right people, I just don't believe that I'm going to fail. And I don't know why that is. I don't know where that comes from. Where does it come from for you, Mike?
It comes from the fact of there is no other option. That's it, right? If this is the cool thing, though. It doesn't matter how you get there, right? If you and if I said, hey, I'm going to meet you in Florida. I'll meet you in Tampa. As long as you get to Tampa, you're fine.
Walk, bike, drive, run. No matter what, I just have to end up in Tampa.
We both could drive. I bet you we're going to take a different path. But we're both getting to where? To Tampa. So my whole point of that is that's my mindset is I know I'm getting to where I'm going to go. The thing that you need to start to master and to work on is how can it be a more duplicatable, repeatable, predictable point, because that's how you scale things. See, for me, from day one, I had the mindset, which is different than most people. I never set out to be an entrepreneur, to be a business owner for myself. From day one, when I opened the doors, I said, okay, I'm working by myself in my basement. But what I'm building is building something that's going to be a lot bigger than me. Everything that I did, I had to make sure it was duplicatable, repeatable, and predictable because there's only one me. There's only one you. You only can train so many people. You only can be here. Again, you want to talk about hours of the day. You can't duplicate yourself. You can if you have a system in place that will allow others to do what you're going to do. And so when I go back to thinking of that, I just made sure everything that I was doing, I was documenting, I was understanding it. I was making sure that people could do it that weren't just me. So when I set out to build, yes, I started my basement by myself, and I started to hire people. And then what I think I'm really, really good at is I surround myself with others who are better at things than I am. And hey, if you're really, really good at doing this, do it. And I give people, it's kind of my weakness at some point. It's also my superpower is I just go do it. If you have questions, come and see me, but I'm not going to micromanage what you do. But you have to have the confidence. Do you get it wrong sometimes? Absolutely. But we're still moving, right? Again, it gets back to it. You want to talk about your faith. Other than Jesus Christ himself, nobody has had a perfect walk up the hill. You're going to fall back. You're going to sin. You're going to do these things that are going to put you back. Again, are you going to get back on there? And so for me, it's like, okay, yeah, we made a mistake or right person, wrong person. We're still moving in the right direction. So now we have that firm wide. When we have offices all over the state, we know that we're bringing those people in that are on that same mission, that they're part of this process that we're all going to do together.
And you're not starting like you once were. Every time you make one of those mistakes or you picked the wrong person, you learn from that and you pick up tips for the future. You're a little bit better. Even though it feels like a setback, it's actually progress in the right direction. Like one of the things I tell a lot of the young kids especially is like, you're going to set out on a path and obstacles are going to be thrown in your path that you cannot foresee. And some of them are going to feel insurmountable and you're going to be like, I don't know what to do. The obstacle is the way.
That gets back to, though, if you are constantly trying to get better, when those obstacles happen, there's something in that memory bank of yours that's going to say, I remember. Or I'm having a hard time, but I remember. And now it's applicable in your life. See, a lot of people that read books or this, that, and the other, they don't take action on those books. Right? I mean, you can ask somebody, how many books did you read last year? Somebody could say I read 30 books. So that's awesome. Tell me, what did you implement out of something inside of those books? And a majority of people are going to say, well, nothing. But I read them. Ideas don't do anything. It's the action behind it. So I could say, I read 5 pages, but I changed this, and this inside of my life.
You made more progress.
So that, to me, is if you are going to be a student of the game, and the game is life, you have to be able to go back to that memory bank and say, I know that time in my life when I read this book or I was part of this group or James said this to me as I was a young fighter, it's not going to be applicable. Maybe it could be 10 years. It's God's time, not my time. And that's the other thing you have to remember. We're not on our time frame, we're on his. He can have, again, you've seen those things out there. It's like, hey, this is a house I've always wanted, but this is a house that God wants for me. You have to understand that it's not easy, because again, if it was easy, everyone would do it. But you just have to sometimes surround yourself with the knowledge and the people around you. You hit a stumbling block. Hey, I some of the best people that we've brought into our organization are people that were already part of this 1 or 2 degrees of separation.
That makes sense, 100%. What are the things, and I'm trying to think about what people would want to ask you if they were able to sit down with you and have this dialogue. What are the things that you do that really help keep the mindset that you have, that keep you on track, that keep you so disciplined and dialed in? Like everybody has certain patterns or, activities, or for me, it's like checklists. Like I have a bunch of things that I do that keep me dialed in and at my best. There's certain things that I have to do. And if I don't do those things, I know I slip a little bit and I hold myself. What are the things that you found over the years that keep Mike Foguth at his best?
There's no hack here. I get back to the core. I care what people think about myself and my family. That's it. I just care, right? I remember when I had kids, when you're getting ready, we were talking about our buddy Chris, being a new father, and I asked somebody who had kids, I said, what's some parenting advice you could give me? I said, this guy's like, it's easy. All you have to do is worry about one thing. I'm like, sweet, let me write this down. He's like, make sure your kids get into heaven. And at the time, did not really, I was like, come on, man. Like, to your point, can you give me a checklist? Like, that's what I wanted. I wanted actionable items that I could check the box and say that they were done. So when you say that, it just goes back to the root of who you are. I, in my heart, care what people think of myself, my family, and my organization. That's it. I don't have a check. I don't have to say, I just at all times, again, it gets back to, I want to be a good person 99.9% of my life. Am I going to stumble? Am I going to fail? Am I going to sin? Am I going to do things? I promise you I am. But I'm going to wake up the next day and I'm going to try and be better. So that's, to me, that's it. I truly, at the end of the day, in my heart, I care. I care when I walk through a parking lot and, I see trash on the ground. It's a Target parking lot. I pick it up, right? You see things, you just have to, look, there's no life hack to this. Be a good person, right? When you see stuff happening in your life, how many people are going to say, oh, yeah, I can't believe that's going on over there. Oh, yeah, and they just keep going. That's just the root of who I am.
Where does that come from? Because, if the more people had that, Mike, the world is beautiful.
It's also, it comes from God. That's just God gifted me with that. It's my, strategic coaches out there, another group I'm part of. That is my unique ability. I just, at the end of the day, I care no matter how big our firm gets, I go back to, I sit down, I talk to people. I still care. I talk to all of my clients. I still care. What's going on? And I can tell you the stories of who they are. That's like, I'd rather talk to you as a human rather than going over your financial numbers, because I know I know the financial side. Like, that's just secondary nature. I want to know who you are.
Guys, if you can dissect what he just said in that point and think about that for your life, if you just genuinely wanted to give your best to the world every day and bring out the best in the people that you interact with, this life is a beautiful adventure, and we shouldn't take it for granted. And you really should be grateful for all of the blessings that you have. And so many people overcomplicate it, because I joke around. I tell my fiance and my people, I just love life. I love life. I love people. I love adventure. I love challenge. I love these things. And I don't know where that's always stemmed from, but that has been jet fuel to being successful, because you only get one shot at this. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, everything matters. I love the way that you just said that. All things you do matter. Every little detail. The way that you interact with the person at the gas station. To me, for some reason, it matters to me the way that I speak to that attendant.
Agreed.
And to some people, they probably it doesn't even cross their mind. They're like not really in their story. I don't know how else to describe it. But it matters to me. It's like, how would I articulate this best? Was your life a little bit better if you knew James Gray? That matters to me.
Right.
I don't know how else to say it other than that. And I think you're speaking to that same point, because that gives you a resonating feeling within you that, like, I'm doing this life the right way. It's the best way that I can describe it.
There definitely are going to be days that you lose.
Oh, 100%.
Right? There's days that you're going to be a jerk. Right? There's days of like, man, James was a real jerk today. There's the days that Mike, man, don't go around him today. He's in a bad play. Absolutely. That's going to happen. Again, we're not perfect human beings. We're going to make mistakes. But again, we're getting back up and saying, okay, today's a new day. I get a chance to win. And I promise you, there are days that I've drove home and I just say, man, today I did not win. But guess what? By the grace of God, I get to wake up tomorrow and going to get another shot at this thing called life.
And the better you are at identifying that, maybe the sooner it is you can recognize when you're starting to slip a little bit and be like, you know what, I'm better than that.
That gets back to the discipline, right? The thing that I try to do, I try to do things that I don't want to do. That just how, like I said, I've taken a cold shower every day since last year. It was like maybe it was like January 5th or 6th last year. A buddy of mine was going through some struggles. And we decided to do 75 hard. He did 75 hard. I was on like phase 1 or 2. And so I did 30 days of it, but part of that was doing a cold shower. I promise you, there's nobody that likes to take a cold shower every day. Again, some people say, oh, I enjoy it. Okay, do it for a week. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was really cool. That was kind of cool for a week. Do it every day. So every day, I'm telling you, I turn the shower all the way to cold. I close the door, I close my eyes and say, all right, every day means every day. And I just go in. Because I made a commitment to myself. This morning, I'll give you a great one. This morning, the other thing that's really cool is if the Lord's blessed you with children, when they get to a certain age, like my oldest 2 are my accountability partners. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have a trainer come to the house and we work out. 80% of the time, I do not want to get out of bed at 5:30 in the morning. Probably that's a lie. Probably 99% of the time, I don't want to get out of bed at 5:30. But I wake them up. This morning, we do cold plunges on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I did not. The bed is warm. I'm doing 75 hard right now. So I was like, man, you did your workouts. You're in a good place. I was like, all right. And I hit the snooze. And I didn't go back to bed. I just sat there and I was like, man, what a liar. Like you're lying to yourself, but more importantly, you're lying to your kids. So I jumped up. I went and got my oldest and we went and hit a cold plunge this morning. I promise you did not want to do that.
Man. You're holding yourself accountable and the discipline is kicking in. And even if the motivation's not there, the discipline's grabbing a hold of you.
The motivation will go, and I said that, motivation will go up and down, right? You want to get pumped up, go watch a YouTube video, get jacked, go run through the wall. Now you're through the wall, what are you going to do? Discipline's got to come back into place. And again, I'm nowhere near perfect. I'm the farthest thing from it. But again, it's one of these things, I read a book on discipline, at least 5 years ago. In the moment in my life where I was, it was not applicable. Nothing registered. I went through the motions of reading the book and absorbing the knowledge. It is now applicable in my life today, 5 years later.
That's planting the seeds. You've referred to it so many times this podcast. Do the right things and seek out the knowledge, and you don't know how the dots will line up in your future. It's like that famous Steve Jobs quote. You know, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, but you just got to trust that the dots will line up in your future. You're bringing in the right resources, and then one day you have the ingredients to bake the cake that you need to bake because you've been acquiring ingredients. So even if they're not used right now, they're in there, and they unlock doorways. I've had motivational videos or books that I read once and I thought I took the main source of the material out of it, and I get a profound new deeper glimpse the next time I read it, or it just hits you in a different frequency. You went through a different life experience and it made you go,
we're going to be in a different phase of your life if you read it a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later. Yes.
I read the book, you'll laugh at this, Tax-Free Wealth, Robert Kiyosaki's accountant, and I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And at first, though, that tax-free wealth was so far beyond my scope that I was like, why am I reading this? I remember thinking to myself at nighttime, my fiance was laughing at me. I'm in bed reading this book that I am like struggling to get through. I'm going, this is horrible. But I knew that there was something contained within those pages that I need to start understanding. And even if I don't understand it now, I get small concepts of it, and down the road, as I make better decisions, it'll become more evident. Some of the smartest decisions I ever made was just trudging through those books.
Yes.
All of a sudden, when I sat down with my accountant in Brighton and she brings up, you know, a certain game plan that we're looking at, I go, that makes sense. And it only makes sense because of the work that I put in beforehand that I, at the time, actually didn't think was valuable at all.
Right.
I really didn't think it was going to help me.
It wasn't applicable.
100%. I couldn't take anything from it right then and apply it to my life. But it's not, we're not playing a game of right now.
Right.
That's a big thing. That's another big thing for my fighters, and you probably tell a lot of people, reaching higher. If you play the game for right now, what feels good right now? Staying in bed.
Yes.
What feels good right now? The bad food. What feels good right now? Avoiding the cold plunge that you told your son you were going to do.
Yes.
That's what feels good right now.
Yeah.
Not climbing the hill means you get to sit at the bottom and just look up.
Right.
There's no stress in that. But what happens when 5 years has gone by and you've taken that route over and over and over, and you're looking at the quality of your life, and you're still broke, you're still struggling, you still have all these goals in front of you that you haven't chased? You know, it's not about right now. You're playing a marathon, not a sprint. The person in the Boston Marathon that puts one foot in front of the other beats the person that sits down when they're tired.
Yeah,
that's how it
exactly
works.
Yeah, two things I'll piggyback on. It's funny you say that. I did, you may know, James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy?
That name's really familiar.
He did 101 Ironmans, 101 days in a row.
I did hear about that.
Okay.
That is so unbelievable.
Unbelievable, right? I'm in the middle of doing 75 hard during that, and I'm reading his book. It was 50 for 50. So before he did that, he did 50 Ironmans in 50 states, 50 days in a row. He said the travel was unbelievable, blah, blah, blah. A few years later, he says, I'm going to do 100 of these. And I'm listening to this, and I'm listening to Forcella's podcast. And he was on and again, I'm following this journey on Instagram, and he was on day, I want to say 76. And I told my wife, I said, I'm going to go do the marathon part on day 100. Mind you, I'm not a runner. Probably the longest I've ever ran in my life is less than a 5K, maybe a mile. And I just said, I'm going to go do it. She's like, hey, you don't even run. What are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I just have this, this is one of these opportunities in my life. Booked the ticket, did everything. Funniest thing ever, I go to the running lab the day before I leave. I was like, hey, I need some shoes. You know what I mean? And they're like, that's not a good idea. I was like, it is what it is. So just give me the shoes. I get out there. I go to check it out. I checked in the hotel. I got everything done. I was like, hey, I'm going to go scope this thing out on day 99. Because he did the same 26 point, whatever it is, 4. And I get out there, and I got my stuff, and I'm like, screw it. Let's go. And I just did day 99 marathon with this guy. Again, it was a walk-run type of deal, but I went and did it. And it was just one of those things, it was a very emotional thing for me, just doing it. Because I had zero, I just said, I'm doing it, and I just did it, and it was done.
I mean, but doesn't that speak to, we are capable of so much more than you think?
Yeah, I mean, people watch this. I mean, again, if you want to know about that, I mean, like David Goggins got the 40% rule. We're in physical, we maybe do 40% of what our body's capable of doing because our mind tells us to stop.
Well, I mean, put it in perspective versus that Ironman. A guy that did 100 Ironmans in 100 days, that is you are doing 0.01% of what the human body is capable of.
It's just unfathomable. I mean, to be out there, to be a part of it, to see it. I mean, the craziest thing about it is a day. So day 100, I go there, there's a celebration. The dude wakes up the next day. Nobody in the public knows it. His inner circle does it, and he does one again. But he did it by himself. No public, nobody knew. The show was over. I mean, they came out, gave him a championship belt. They did all these things, and he did day 100, and he celebrated. But only his family and a few other people know. 101, he shows up and says, I wanted to do this one for myself and my family and friends.
I feel like if you went to the doctor and said, is this possible for me? They probably would tell you no.
No, I know.
They'd say you can't do it. We recently, last weekend, a guy fought here. His name's Alberto. He went to get his physical done, and they failed him and made him come back. Incredibly in shape, six-pack. And I said, why did you fail, Alberto? What's going on there? Your fight's going to get canceled if you can't pass your physical. They said, my resting heart rate's too low. They won't approve me. The kid is so healthy that his resting heart rate is in the 40s, and we're so used to not seeing people like that they had failed him on his health. It's like you have no idea what you are capable of or what is possible for you. And if you can just set your goals higher than what anyone believes you can accomplish, regardless of whether you hit that goal, you will be pulled to be more than what you are. And like, that spirit that you have, I hope you never lose that. The fact that, you know what, day 100, I'm going to be there with him. I might have to walk. I might have to crawl. I might have to drag myself across the line, but I'm doing it. And that also gives you a trust within yourself that when any obstacle comes up, you just believe that you can conquer it. Because most people would say, Mike, you can't do this. You're going to hurt yourself.
They did. That's my wife's like, there's how you can do it. I told friends like the weekend before, they're like, wait, where are you going on Monday? I was like, oh, I'm just going to do a marathon. They're like, have you been training? I was like, no. None. Zero run.
And you know what? I bet you every time someone says you can't do something, you're the type of person that says, I'm going to show you. I'll do it. I'll get through it.
So there's a great book out there, Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David. You know him?
Yes.
Okay. So phenomenal book. And it kind of talks about earlier when I said earlier, like my losses are my drivers, not my victory. Like I don't care about winning. I already know I'm going to win. So when I win, there's no like celebrate. Let's go and have a big celebration. It's the losses that I enjoy because there's like, all right, perfect. That was wrong. We're going to never do that again, but we're going to get better because of this. And that's where he says, choose your enemies wisely. You need to find somebody because, again, it gets back to that's the discipline. The motivation, there's enough motivational speakers out there. They'll motivate you, but when it gets tough, when the lights are getting shut off and it's saying, okay, do you got any more left in the tank? And the answer is no. But you can remember back to something that happened in your life or an enemy or somebody, to your point, who said, you cannot do this. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it, I'm doing it for my family. I'm not doing this for me. I'm not getting up to work out Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 5:30. I mean, the Lord's blessed me. I have availability. I have freedom of my time. I go work out at noon today if I wanted to. But I'm doing it at 5:30 because that's what they need to be doing for that day. And so I just get back to like, that's my driver. That's my enemy right now is doing that. So I'm choosing that to say, I'm going to go conquer that enemy. But I think if people really, again, if you want to climb this mountaintop, you need to find somebody that when you're in a bad place, and again, I'm not saying to do this maliciously. I'm not saying to do this violently. I'm saying to do this as your internal driver. Remember that person that said, you cannot do this. Remember that person that says you are crazy to do this. That will drive. You probably have people in your life. I don't need to say mine publicly. I just know that they're there, and I appreciate them being there because they're putting me where I'm at today and beyond. Because again, a lot of people that get to a level of success, they don't do it for themselves. Are there people that do it? Absolutely. But you have to find that person that's going to drive you. And again, there's a lot of there's some very successful people out there that like Dave Portnoy from Barstool. He gets the bottles of Cristal or Dom Perignon, and he engraves their name on it of all of he calls them his haters or his enemies. And when they fail or he surpasses them, he pops it and celebrates it. People are like, oh, well, I can't believe it. Why would he do that? These are people who are like aggressively pursuing his failure, not his success. They want to see his demise. So when he keeps going, right? So Pat David says, you find that person that's going to drive you.
I got a super short story. I opened my first ever main location by Los Tres Amigos in Howell.
Oh, yeah.
And an instructor that's a martial arts instructor here in Michigan who's been in the game a long time, who I had a lot of respect for, went in there one day to see the space because he had heard that I had just opened up and I wasn't there. And one of my main people, Tim Farr, who's been with me since the basement, professional fighter, world-class guy, I really respect him a lot. He went up there and says, "Oh, this is James's place." Yada, yada. And what he said to Tim Farr was, "He'll be bankrupt and this will be shut down in 6 months. If you want to come somewhere else, just let me know. Come with me." So I wasn't there. He went up to my guy, one of my close friends, one of the pros that I was training, and said, "He doesn't know anything about business. He's a self-taught martial artist. He'll never be anything in this community. If when it closes down, you can come train with me." And that played in my mind for years, Mike, because I was like, how dare you? First of all, if you don't want to celebrate my success, you don't need to. You don't owe me anything, man. You don't need to applaud for me. You don't need to congratulate me. You don't even need to interact with me. You don't need to like me, and that's perfectly fine. But for you to be like, you can't wait for me to fail.
Right.
You're letting my friend know. You think Tim didn't call me right when you left and said, "Hey, James, I want to let you know what this guy said. I just want you to know that." Honestly, thankful. I'm appreciative. Thank you, sir, for going in there. I'm not even going to shout him out. Thank you for going in there and saying that I'll never make it and I'll never be anything, because that was probably some of the best during the darkest times when I was completely broke, going, I don't know anything about business. I got no money in my account. I barely have enough money to put in my gas tank to get to the lesson that I have to teach. That guy motivated me, and I choose your enemies wisely. I love that.
Yeah, and you keep them.
100%.
Right, and you'll have more as your success goes. There'll be more, but just always remember them. It doesn't matter how big. I mean, you could open the biggest mixed martial arts in the entire country, still go back to that point when, hey, when I was in my basement, this guy said I couldn't do it. It's like, perfect.
You also dropped another beautiful bit of insight where sometimes people do not feel worthy enough in themselves, or they're so guilt-ridden, or they have a lot of shame, or they've messed up a lot in their past and they have not shed that yet. I really challenge people to realize that you're not your past. You are the man that sits here today. And if you could do better in the future, you're a different human being having gone through, you probably did make mistakes. You did all these wrong things, but you are the person that exists right now. If someone was to walk in this room, they don't know our background. They don't know our failures. They don't know the worst times of our life. They know the two men that sit here today and the impact that we can make. With that being said, you've mentioned you've done it for others. Sometimes when you can't get yourself through something, if you could look at what people will do for their animal.
Right.
Like a dog, you would go to the ends of the earth to fight to defend your animal, or your children, or your wife, or your significant other. Sometimes you can leverage that and say, it's not about me.
Right.
It's bigger than me. I am doing this for my family, for my legacy, for my children to see an example of a father in this world that despite not wanting to get out of bed, he's out of bed. And I think if people could tap into that resource as well, use your haters, use your enemies, but also look into the fact that you are serving the people that are close to you in your life. And how are you serving them? To what degree are you serving them?
You have to ask yourself, what's your legacy, right? And especially with having children. Like my wife and I have this conversation. We go deeper. We're talking generations, right? So it's like my great grandkids may or may not ever meet me, but our goal is to be able to provide for them in life. And financially, yes, but also with the character and who we are and what all these things are. So when that comes up and says, hey, do you remember your great grandma? I only met her when I was 2, but this is the legacy that she left. That's something of importance that people need to understand, that everybody's going to leave a legacy, some bigger than others, right? And that again, it's a different level, right? It's hard if someone's listening to this right now and they're saying, man, I'm that guy that's in the $1,300 a month and I'm just trying to figure out how to pay attention. You don't really need to be focusing on legacy. It needs to be there. It needs to be part of your journey, but you need to focus on again, it's how do you get to the top of the mountain? You said it earlier, one foot in front of the other, and that will then take you to where you want to go. So it's do it in phases. You don't have to say, okay, how do I go from here all the way to the, how do I leave a legacy for my great-great-grandkids? Focus on step one, right? And the rest will then come.
And honestly, by walking up a mountain, you become a mountain climber. And mountain climbers are the ones that can scale the incredible mountains. So you might not be able to climb Everest at first, but you don't learn to climb Everest by just taking a shot at that right off the rip. You practice walking up a hill. You practice being able to take a step forward each day. You practice not giving up and resiliency and character, and maybe falling down the hill a little bit and having to see the lost progress and get back up and go again and be consistent. And if you do that, you're a mountain climber. And guess what mountain climbers can do? They can climb mountains.
Right.
So if you want to be the type of man that can put your life in order, you have to figure out, what does that look like?
Absolutely. You know, and then to answer your question earlier, God will forgive you for your mistakes. And it's bigger than me. I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to sin. I'm going to do these things. And I just ask for forgiveness. So every morning I ask for forgiveness, I ask for wisdom, and I ask for discernment. Every morning. Forgive me for my sins. Give me the wisdom for the day and the discernment to do the things. That's it. And that helps my mindset to know that there's somebody a lot more powerful and bigger than me that has a plan for me. And I'm just going to, his actions are my actions, his words are my words. And again, I'm not saying this as anywhere near perfection. I fail a lot. I do a lot of bad. There's times like, hey, I won't push my shopping cart back after I go because I throw it in the bin and I get in my car and I go. Absolutely, I'm not perfect. But a majority of the time, I'm going to walk my shopping cart back to the front of the store because it's not fair that somebody else has to come and collect something that I wasn't willing to do. I'm looking to have more victories than I am losses at the end of the day. That's it.
Another way to look at it is here's a funny way to say it, but I used to say to people, don't be sorry, be better. Like, if you made a mistake, it's okay. Like, literally, I forgive you for almost any mistake you make if you truly are going to modify your behavior and don't do it again and show me that you've learned from that. Don't be sorry, be better. And if you've made mistakes in your life, they're lessons if you make corrections to your actions. If you make mistakes over and over and over again, then they're no longer mistakes. That's called choices. Right. That's called your character. Yes. If you go out and do the wrong thing over and over and over again, it's on you at that point. And that is your legacy, and that will be your legacy. Yep. Otherwise, hey, if you mess up, guess what? So do I. So does everyone else. Be better, and then we all move in the direction that we want to go.
Exactly right.
So one thing I'd like to talk about before we wrap this podcast up, Foguth Financial, when you decided, I'm going to open a location. This has gotten big enough now. I have multiple employees. You went to school for business, but it is a whole different thing, really stepping out in the business world and trying to take over, a little plot of real estate in a community. What was that process like? And when, forget the when, what have you done that has allowed you to create the culture that's made Foguth Financial successful? Because most business owners that I talk to, they talk a lot about culture. Mm-hmm. They talk a lot about getting the right people on board. What have you found that's created the environment that you have in your location, and what was the process of building to that point?
It just care. At the end of the day, you're right. I understand. I'm nowhere near perfect. I am actually a very poor manager of people because of my expectations. In my personal life, I don't focus on my victories. I focus on my losses. I focus on what's wrong, not what's right. And that's a big character, default, if you will. Like that's not good to have that. Like when we do something, I don't look at what was done. I look at what was done wrong.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. That is a heavy weight as a boss, because you're basically setting a gold standard and expecting everyone's going to be as high level to get to that standard as you would hold yourself. And that's a heavy pressure. But to give you my opinion, you're pulling them in the direction of the people that they should become. Even if they don't live fully up to the standard, a man without standards or a culture without standards is going to make everybody fail.
Right. So, to answer the question, surround yourself with people that are better at certain parts of your life than you are. If I can't, after I had one employee, and I'd go home and I'd just tell my wife, all the things that this person was not doing. She's like, well, why are you paying them then? And it was because I was just focusing on those things. So my answer to that is hire people around you, or surround yourself with people that are better at certain character traits than you are. There are people in this world that are amazing, amazing leaders and managers of other people. That's their God-given talent. They know culture. They know how to do fun. They know how to get the morale and the boost, and they know how to do those things. If you know that is a weakness, hire to that weakness. And I do that in all positions. Look, if your ability is to do this, let's have you do more of that and less of these things. Now, you still, and I say this, you still have to do those things. It's part of your job. But let's essentially, over time, get you to a point where we can transition you out of doing those things. We can hire somebody to come and backfill it, but you focus on and do more of what the things that you're good at, because you're going to enjoy it more. So that's what I focus on, is what do you really truly like to do? Let's do more of that. Still do your job until we can backfill and have somebody come in. And that's why we hire so many people, because we bring people on. Okay, you're really good over here. Then let's push you over there and bring somebody in to do this, because that work still has to be done.
And as a testament to Mike here, I was in his office maybe 5 months ago. We sat down and you were kind of giving me some direction and giving me some guidance about decisions. And you know what you said to me? Focus on what you're good at and do more of that, and do a little bit less of the things that kind of pull you a different direction, or delegate out the responsibilities that don't allow you. Like, where is your main passion and expertise and where you are irreplaceable? Go all in on that.
Yes.
You said the exact same words to me. Yeah. You said, if you do this, you will experience even more growth. And since that time, I have done that even more, and I've experienced that growth. It was wild hearing that message, because you said the exact same thing to me in your office.
Because God has given us all unique abilities. There is. I mean, my wife is an amazing mother. God made her to be a mom. I mean, she just is amazing. She's caring, she's passionate, she's all these things. Like, if you would say in a dictionary, like, the world's best mother, it'd be her, right? And I say that because that's what God gifted her to do. And there's people out there that are really, really, really good at the things that you are not at. Now, sometimes it's hard to find them. Sometimes you don't know what you're looking for. But again, if you start to surround yourself, you start to talk to the people, you start to just kind of put it out there, all of a sudden it'll start to come together, and you'll have somebody in your life that you're like, wow, what did I do before this person? There's going to be those moments in your life. And again, it just gets back to what we had opened with. You know, if you're constantly reading, you're constantly, you know, I don't want to say searching for better, those things will come back in life. And if you're a good person, you have conversations with somebody at an event or somewhere, and a year later, you're like, man, I remember I should reach back out to them. Or I bumped into them at the store. Hey, come in, I want to have a conversation with you. And now all of a sudden, and again, it's wild and crazy things. We're looking to add another trader to our trading desk at our office. I just so happens that my dentist son just graduated from the University of Michigan with a degree in finance, and he's working on a trading desk right now, and he's not happy.
Wow. What a prep. Do
you see what I'm saying?
It's like puzzle pieces that are meant to fit as long as you're going out there and living.
Because I care enough to have a conversation with my dentist and say, hey, how's it going? How's your kid doing? Oh, it's funny you say that. Because he knows I'm in financial services, you know. Oh, he's doing this, this, and this. He's actually looking at this. I said, sweet. Have him reach out to me on LinkedIn, and which he did. I forwarded him over to the right people, and he's coming in for an interview. You see what I'm saying? Like that. That's just being a good person. Having that conversation. And again, sometimes it sounds, it's that easy.
Everything matters.
Yes.
Every day, every conversation, everything you do matters more than you think it does. And if you take it seriously like that, doors just open in your future without even you having to do the work. You just find out that there's an open door that you unlocked much earlier in your journey.
Yes.
Maybe years earlier.
Simply reading that book, right?
100%.
You read that tax book, right? Years ago in the journey, like, this is not applicable. I can't believe I just wasted my time. I feel dumber than I thought. You're supposed to be smarter if you read a book.
That's exactly how I felt.
Right? And then here it comes back into your life. It's like, got it. It's the same thing, right? And so if you can do that more times than not, you're going to be in a better place.
Well, I can't have Mike Foguth from Foguth Financial Group on the podcast and not wrap it up this way. Somebody is looking for wealth management, or they're an entrepreneur that's trying to take their game to the next level, or they have quite a bit of capital to work with. Hey, do I invest in real estate? Should I do this? Should I do that? What is it about your services or firm that you think has made so many happy clients? Like, you have a massive clientele. You're known all over the community. You're right down on Main Street. The roads are finally opened up. It's gorgeous. But what is it that you think is the specialty, or what is it, that secret juice that you guys have that allows you to help so many people and produce such good returns?
Sure. The two biggest things that we have is, number one, we have proprietary software, planning software. So when we sit down with a client, we can actually do things that nobody else can do from a mathematical standpoint. Beautiful thing about our job is 2 is always bigger than 1, right? You can go to 50 different financial advisors, you can get 50 different opinions. You go to 50 different mixed martial arts coaches, and they're going to show you 50 different ways to do the exact same thing. So what makes you different? The fact that we have proprietary planning software that will then put math into play. So that's number one. That's our clients love that. But number two is we really, and again, I'm passionate about this. I've shared this with you. We deploy strategies to reduce or eliminate people's wealth. I'm sorry, their taxes on their wealth. Right? If you can reduce and eliminate taxes on your money, it is an absolute, you and I talked about this. Like if you can do things from a tax planning standpoint, it is an unbelievable strategy that it just makes, I want to use the word millions and millions of dollars of difference.
That's probably the biggest misunderstanding I had in business forever. So when I started business, I thought taxes and the tax code and all this red tape and paperwork was my enemy. And like I said, reading that book, I was still going, this doesn't make sense to me. Just from changing to an LLC to an S Corp,
yeah.
I cut my tax in half. I saved so much money. I was mind blown. And I'm going to my accountant and I go, did we make a mistake? Is something wrong here? And she goes, no, this is like basic tax strategy. You're not even into anywhere
Advanced
near.
planning, yeah.
No, you are doing basic tax strategy. It's like that's why you have to seek out people that are experts in that field. You have no idea how much you're leaving on the table until you get with someone like your level that goes, James, you're an LLC that's taking in this kind of revenue. You are getting slaughtered on this. You need to switch to A, B, and C. And if you know, before the end of the year, if you would have had projections out in October and you could have figured out you had this much excess capital and you deployed it into these areas,
Yeah.
the tax code is actually written as like your friend is a business owner.
Correct.
I never thought like that.
You know, there's a saying, there's only two tax codes, one for the informed, one for the uninformed. It's that simple. You know, and to wrap things up, with our partnership with the University of Michigan Athletics, I cannot tell you how many student athletes I have helped because they have no idea. They have no idea that, hey, if I just had a track gal reach out to me on Instagram, and she's like, hey, I remember you coming to talk. I made a ton of money. What do I do? So it's these people out there that are making money. It's not, and again, we say this in the office all the time, it's not what you earn, it's what you keep. Right? You can earn all of this money, but if you're turning around and you're giving it all back in taxes, it's not what good is it? So that's really helped our firm grow. And again, it gets back to the point of all of our advisors are following the exact same process. It's duplicatable, repeatable, and predictable for their client. And that's what the client wants. Right? We're not sitting here saying, hey, we're going to outperform everybody else in town and we're just the greatest thing. No. We care about who we're talking to at that time because everybody's got a different story in their life. How do we solve their story? How do we sit down and understand who they are and get to where they want to go? Not where we want to go, it's where they want to go. And so we use our planning and all that fun stuff. And so at the end of the day, our goal is just to continue to help families that we work with. That's it. And we're not the perfect fit for everybody, but the ones that come in, our goal is to educate them to be able to make an informed decision.
So final thing, do you have like a favorite quote, Mike, favorite book, one book that you could recommend that everybody should read, a favorite quote? Give me some like, you know, unique Mike Foguth wisdom.
So here's the thing. So this is where I'm at in my life right now, right? I could give you like if you come to my office, I have my own library downstairs. I think it's 3 bookcases full of personal development, self-help books that I've just read, accumulated over years. Some are financial driven, some are not. And I constantly am absorbing that. You can ask anybody if I'm, again, having 6 kids, I'm on a soccer field, a volleyball court, I'm somewhere doing something, and I always will have my earbuds in. I'm listening to podcasts. It does 2 things for me. Number one, it brings down the level. If you're a parent, it's very intense, and the way that things are, and people are yelling and screaming, I'm very calm for the most part during those because I'm listening to something, I'm absorbing the information. So I have an ear pod in, I'm constantly podcasting Audible, listening to books. But where I'm at in my life right now, I'm doing 75 hard. I'm reading my 10 pages a day. And I started reading a book, Andy Frisella's new book on mental toughness. And I'm probably, 3-4 chapters in. And it wasn't really where I needed to be. I was absorbing it. And I was, okay, that's great. I was like, I need something different. I really want to go through this journey. I want to focus more on my family. And so I went down to the library. And the book that I'm reading right now, to answer your question, is What a Difference a Daddy Makes by Dr. Kevin Leman. And I have 5 daughters. And this book was gifted to me. I was telling my wife we were on a trip in the British Virgin Islands probably in 2017. And I met a man. And I was telling him about my family, this, that, and the other. And he actually mailed me this book with a handwritten card. Made it out to my wife and I. Hey, so great meeting you, blah, 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 blah. Never read it. It sat in the library. And I went down there before I started 75 and I pulled it. This is a book right now that I cannot put down. And because it's where I'm at in my life, it's like now I can take action. I can feel it. Like most of the times when I'm reading a book, I'm banking this. I know I'm going to need this in later. As I'm reading, I'm trying to relate. This is where I'm at right now. And the coolest thing about this book is just it goes to show you the importance that a father has on a daughter's life and your family and the structure. And I'll give you my takeaway as we wrap things up here. My takeaway is it's helping my marriage because I now perceive my wife as if later in life would I want my children to be married to somebody like myself. And that is where it kind of punches me in the face because it's doing the dishes. It's doing the things that, again, I don't want to do. I'm not saying I do it, right, honey? If you're listening, I'm not saying I'm doing dishes every night. But my point of this is I'm getting better.
You have the pull to be that man.
Yes.
Because every father, I mean, you have a daughter in the world, you want her to find the greatest version of a man that has ever existed, that, you know, is a leader, that's strong, that takes care of her, that loves her, that protects their family, that works hard, that's ambitious. It's like, you have to be that and more. And honestly, her seeing you be that type of man.
Set that standard.
Exactly. Tells her that's the type of man I'm seeking. Someone of that caliber. Yes. Someone that is home and present and, you know, loves my mother and takes care of our family.
Yes.
100%. Man, that's beautiful. And it's back to the same message you've said all podcast long where you don't know how things are going to connect, but you got to live. And you having that conversation with that gentleman opened that door.
Yes.
Imagine if you had never talked to him.
Yeah.
You don't get the book. You don't get the card. It doesn't go in the library.
It's not here in 2024.
Exactly. It doesn't exist. Like you would live in an alternate universe. It's weird to think about it that way, but that's how life works. You are creating the future based on the way you live each day.
Right. And the relationships that you know, so again, in closing, that would be the thing is just have an open mind to understand that again, it's enjoy the process. And I struggle with this, but enjoy the process, right? Enjoy getting to where you want to go. Cause again, guys like you and I, when you get there, it's like, who cares, whatever, what's next?
I have to ask you about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I promise I'll wrap it up after this question, but that's something I struggle with really bad. I cannot find enough contentment. I'm never happy with the progress I make because I already expected to make that progress.
Correct.
I am constantly stuck in how do I get to the next thing? How do I get to the next thing? Have you found any secrets to slow that down or at least be able to enjoy the moment as much as you enjoy the future that you're chasing?
Well, there's three main things. Number one is you have to be where your feet are. So what does that mean? If I'm here right now, I'm not on my phone. You know, my wife called, right? I'm here. I'm having this conversation with you. When you're home, be home. What do I mean by that? You're an entrepreneur. You love this place with every inch and atom in your body. But if you're home with your fiance, be home with your fiance. If you're at, you know, the big thing, we didn't even get a chance, I could spend an hour on this, spending time with your parents. I think that's the biggest thing right now. So everybody always says you have 18 summers with your kids and your kids. I love my kids to death. I'm focusing on my parents. My parents are in their mid-60s. Probably, let's call it 20 years. Okay, God willing, my children, I got as long as I live. God willing. So I go back to being where your feet are. When you're there, be present with them. Because this world is chaotic and everything's on your fingertips and right, people are looking at their phones constantly. And I'm guilty of these things. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the means. So number one is be where your feet are. Number two, you have to understand that you have goals. Write them down. And when you accomplish them, it's okay to celebrate them. It's not in your DNA to do it, but celebrate them. Give yourself a reward. It's okay to be materialistic. It really is. People are like, oh, you have this nice watch on. Great. There's a reason I have this watch on. You got a nice car. There's a reason that these things are in my life. And I celebrate those victories. So say, hey, when I do this, it has to be measurable. See, it's not a goal unless you can measure it. It's just a dream. I want to be the biggest MMA gym in Michigan. Sweet. How do you define that? Is it by square footage? right? Because if it is, you go buy Ford Field and say, oh, I got the biggest one. Well, is it the most what is it that actually is a measurable goal? So make sure it's measurable. And then when you get there and accomplish it, have the reward predetermined. Honey, when we get to this point of X amount of revenue or certain amount of athletes per month signed up, we're going to go to this vacation. And it's already planned. You already know where it's at. You know what the resort is. You know all of these things. And again, when you're there, you're going to be like, all right, this is sweet. This is cool. But you will have a moment on that beach, if it's on a beach, and you're just going to say, thank God. And you're going to close your eyes. You're going to get emotional. And you're going to say, man, I did it. And that's all you need. We don't need a parade down Main Street for you. But if you put yourself in that moment where you can have a moment, that's all you're going to need. And it'll make that process. Okay, so that's the second thing. All right. Third thing is, I'm very visual. I like to track everything that I'm doing, but I want to see it. So something that I've just recently done this year is I bought a calendar. I don't know, it's probably 4x6, huge calendar. It's in my office. And I stole this from Jesse Itzler, if you know who he is. And on that calendar, I've color coordinated the days that I'm doing things. So I start to track little things. So my one daughter is a volleyball player. We're going to go down to Texas on March 4th to go watch a volleyball scrimmage with the University of Texas national champs. So on my board, family events are blue. So the sticky note on that date is blue. I like to golf, so I have all these golf trips planned. Those are pink. Family vacations, yellow. Business trips. So it's all color coordinated. So I'm very visual. So I get to come in and I get to see what I'm going to be doing. And again, to me, I enjoy spending time with my family and doing the things that I want to do. So I thrive to do more of those. But I need to be able to see that I'm going to be doing them. Because right now, if I ask you, what are you doing in the month of April? Would you know off the top of your head?
No, not yet. I mean, I know I can tell you close to what I'll be doing, but like a specific defined.
Where are you going to go?
I'm not sure yet.
See what I'm saying?
The fight leagues are, yeah.
Put them on there.
100%.
I mean, is there a time? And again, I would challenge you to this. And this is a great way to end this. You're gonna, hey, I want to have this many people in a fight league or this, that, and the other. And hey, one of the fights are going to be in. I'm just making it up, in Miami. Well, my fiance, I'm going to bring her down with me, and we're going to go to Fort Lauderdale after for an extra 2 days to celebrate it if we do Y. And again, I'm just making that up on the fly. But do you see what I'm saying?
No, I've completely understood your point, and it's a really great one. And it's like you're making your roadmap that much stronger. I always refer to, like, you have to have your map. You have to know where you're going. You're really defining your map. You're coloring the trees on your map. You're making that map so real that all you have to do is, like, just do what you need to do. You need to play your role in that part, and then you already know the beautiful destinations you're going to get to see. You already have pre-planned out the special moments that, that quick moment of celebration. Because I was visualizing as you were sitting here talking to me. I'm a very visual person too, imagining what those moments feel like when you really take in, because at a point of your life, you wanted that. You were chasing after that. You
wanted experiences.
Yeah, so don't let it slip by without celebrating it a little bit. That's a good way to look at it.
Because again, when you get a point when you accomplish and you have certain things in your life that you've set out to do, the house, the car, the boat, the whatever it is, right? Again, I don't even have a boat, but my point is, those things will come and go. Now, you'll remember it if you put a certain watch on or do a certain thing, it'll have a tie back. I tell our advisors, if you go somewhere and do something, buy something nice, and every time you carry that or you have that, you're going to remember that. Buy your wife a fancy purse if you ever go to Italy. Well, she doesn't like it. I don't care. Buy it for her, so every time that you see that, you're going to remember when you went to one of our guys just did that. But I'm saying these things of my life selfishly. I want experiences, and I'm not doing them for myself. I'm experiencing things. Again, the big wrestling guy. I go to NCAA Wrestling Nationals every single year. I'm taking my father with me. My son and I are going to, and my dad are going to Monster Jam on Sunday. Right? It is on my calendar. I'm going to do these things, and I'm going to see them, and I want more of them. So then I say, okay, what do I have to do to get more of those experiences? So when I put my head on the pillow at night, or the Lord has called my time, I can close my eyes and say, I experienced everything that I possibly could with the people that matter the most to me. That's it.
Man, absolutely beautiful way to end the episode. And most successful people I know, that is what they want out of this life. They want love, they want connection, they want experience, and they want to know that they mattered. That's what they're chasing, and that's what you're doing. So, Mike, it was an honor to sit with you today. I really enjoyed this dialogue. We did a full-length feature film, 90-minute conversation.
There we go.
I'm gonna put this thing up start to finish, unedited. I mean, I'll color grade it and stuff a little bit, but then I'm also gonna clip a lot of parts because I feel like there's just tremendous insight that you drop throughout. I really enjoy your time today. I enjoy your spirit for the world.
Thank you.
That we need more of that. You know what I mean? And you being that type of man radiates outward. And the more people we have that get on this mission, the more it's going to affect the next generation and our community, and hopefully put a lot of people, you know, on the same track, because life is beautiful, and really there's so much to offer, and you know, it's just great to see you living this way. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.